Hello and welcome to the Investment International Leadership Summit 2024. With me in the studio today are our esteemed guests from across the cross-border financial services world, the real big hitters of the industry. First off, to my left, we have David Kneeshaw, CEO of IFGL. And next to David, we have Mark Belcher, Head of International Sales from Zurich Integrated Benefits. Welcome. This is your first time on the panel, Mark.
Thank you for having me.
So welcome. We have Ariel Amigo, who is the Chief Marketing and Distribution Officer at Investors Trust.
Yes.
Ari, thank you for coming for your third Leadership Summit all the way from Miami.
Correct. On top of 14-hour delay, non-hurricane related, but no, I'm here, happy to be here.
Fantastic. Well, thank you as always. Also, Richard Burden from Head of International Sales from Canaccord Genuity Wealth Management. Richard, this is your first Leadership Summit too?
Yeah, delighted to be here. Thank you very much.
Welcome. And last but not least, we have Stephen Atkinson, who's Global Head of Sales from the Utmost Group. Welcome once again, Stephen.
Thank you.
Let's jump straight into this. And by the way, we're recording this on the 10th of October, which is our awards day. I'm hoping that you're all going to be talking to me at the end of the awards. We don't know who the winners are; they haven't been announced. But this will go out on October the 17th next week to our audience. So first question, let's just be general. What's the future of the industry looking like? And I'm going to start with Stephen. What does the future of the industry look like?
Okay, I'll probably sum it up in two words: consolidation and complexity. So, consolidation in the IFA space first. We've seen sort of Titan recently, we've seen Fry Group in Europe, Gatsby and First Dance. Obviously, a lot going on in the UK, and I can't see that stopping anytime soon. Interesting to see what the FCA are going to say with their recently announced review, but I'm sure it will continue. The same with on the life company side. I'm sure there'll be further consolidation. There's 30 life companies still in Luxembourg, so I'm sure we're going to see some further consolidation, possibly in Lux. I'll probably cover our a little bit later, but not in this section. And then for the complexity bit, I mean, I will sound like a struck record. I'm sure I answered it very similar to last year. I think the brokers, the advisors, will continue to move further up the wealth pyramid, going for ever more wealthy clients. And the wealthier that clients get, obviously, the more complex their problems. And that's when they can charge a premium fee, a premium charge, whatever, to solve those problems. And we just want to be in that space. I think we'll also see, in terms of that complexity, it's going to be it's assets, succession, global mobility, et cetera, et cetera. On the asset space, I think, for the future, I think we're going to see a lot more investment in private markets. I think I think at the moment that we see about 5% of clients' portfolios in that type of asset. I suspect it's probably going to drift to 2025. I think the phrase going around the market is sort of the democratization of private markets. I remembered it. So I think we're going to see a move into that. So consolidation and complexity, basically.
Two big words. And of course, when it comes to consolidation, Utmost are pretty good in that respect, of course. And we'll talk about what's been happening over Utmost a little bit later on. I'll move across the table to David because we're talking about consolidation, and again, another company that has been instrumental in helping ensure that the consolidation continues. Tell us about the future industry, how you see it looking, David. What's your view?
Well, there has been a lot of change, and it feels very different for those active day to day in the market. But actually, the fundamentals, I don't think, have changed. Ultimately, there are still clients, well-to-do clients, high net worth, whatever your the categorization of those clients, who have assets in different parts of the world, and they need those assets in a safe place, in a good structure, and they need advice. and they need sometimes life products as well. So single premium investment, regular savings, and life products. And that's the same today as it was 20, 30 years ago. It's more the backdrop and the environment around that advice that's changed. There's greater complexity in governance, in regulation, in technology. So that means that whether you're a manufacturer or a distributor or an advisor, you need to be scaled up. You need to be more sophisticated. You have to have better infrastructure, more capital, both on the advice and the manufacturing side. And you have to have a clearer and more sophisticated understanding of the rules. So the environment of what we all do has changed massively, and it feels very different. But there are still good advisors out there giving good advice who need products and they need manufacturers. So in that sense, very little has changed. You know, why we're all here is exactly the same as it was. It's more the world around us and the environment that's made it more complex, arguably more interesting, and I suppose various challenges that we all respond to in our different ways.
Ari, tell us your perspective on this.
Well, I have to say that I agree with both. Definitely, I see a market that is very prosperous. I see, especially after the pandemic, a lot of expat communities that, again, thrive again, and they're all over the world, which is our bread and butter. Sophistication is absolutely on spot because of regulation, and we've been talking about it over the years here, about the changes in the regulatory environment. That, together with the growth in terms of clientele and the different clientele that is around the world, sophistication of product, sophistication and advice is something that we need to pay attention to. We notice also something that has been going on probably for the last 5 to 8 years. South, I like to call it South to South expats. People from emerging markets going to another emerging markets to work, which is something relatively new, and the size of it is growing fast. So you have a Brazilian going to Mexico and a Chinese person going to Africa. And this is happening more and more. So we need to be able to serve those clients too, with the support and the resources that they need. They come from different cultures, different languages. So I think we have a great runway. The consolidation made the market, we are a handful of companies that we care about this. So we know who we are. We're bringing new products to the table. We care. We invest. I think the future is bright.
Our backdrop today is the moving planet behind us, and it really is a world that it's easy to get around, isn't it? You can get from one part to the other.
Not for you.
I've got to admit, not
for David and myself this time around. Yeah.
Usually easy to get around. I'm going to move over to Mark. Mark, you operate in a slightly different field to a lot of people around the table. You're in the integrated benefits world. Looking at employee benefits, just tell us about some of the trends in that industry.
From an employee benefit, and I guess what does the future and how does that sort of bring into that, what that's looking like, and just to acknowledge what David said is that it's the environment is changing around us, and the world itself is a challenging place. We all spoke about climate change and elections, a lot going on, lots of conflict, and with that's where support's needed for a lot of people, and I think this is where employers are now stepping up in order to make sure from an employee benefit perspective that they're supporting employees, and the support and well-being is like you say, that's a trend. It's something that's emerging. It's what the future of the industry looks like, and you look at the well-being categories with regards to physical, mental, social, but the financial element is something that's needed as well, and where we come in. And I think from the trend and from a challenge moving forward, it's about supporting, and as a provider, we need to support our customers, our employers with how they support employees. And I think going forward, I'm sure we'll touch upon digital and all those in this discussion, but the digital journey is really important in order to make sure we supply, and there's always diverse populations that and workforces that we need to reach. So on that journey to help educate and support people as they go forward.
it seems more and more that when you look at the Dubai market, for example, with when it comes to employee benefits, but particularly in the UK now, who knows what's going to be coming down the tubes from the Labour government? There's going to be a gap at some point that's going to need filling with additional products. So I think it's a good market to be in. Same question to Richard. Last but not least, it's always hard to be the final one on this, but
Amongst illustrious company.
absolutely. Just tell us how you see the future of the industry.
I agree with everything that was said before. Fundamentally, there is still a client who has a need to save for the future, to invest for the future, and the companies around this table fill that gap and do it very well. And we love being a partner to everyone around this table. What we're seeing on the investment side is an upscaling within the advisory market, an upskilling particularly, and those accepting that they're not fund managers, that they need to revert to a centralised investment philosophy that they can outsource. IFAs and brokers are very, very good at sourcing clients. They're maybe not so good as being a fund manager and then the ongoing actual fund management and trading within that. So what we're seeing is probably working with fewer partners who actually specialise in maintaining client relationships and accept that they can't be the fund managers and outsource and concentrate on what they're really, really good at. In terms of the investment side, we've seen private equity coming into play, which is obviously something that's been on the life company horizon for many, many years, and that's creating opportunities. Stephen mentioned before Titan buying AHR in the Middle East. I'm sure there will be others to go, and these businesses need to be well-run businesses to attract that investment. I just don't think you can have someone in a room with a spreadsheet running portfolios anymore. And actually, by outsourcing, which we're seeing an increasing trend in, you're actually building value into your business, making it more attractive for a sale or actually a private equity ownership. So yeah, we see the future as being very bright.
That consolidation side of things, it works across both fronts, both with what I call the industry, which are the product providers and service providers, but also the advisors, like you said, the deal with Titan and AHR. Do you see it when we look at the advisory world? We've been talking for years about consolidation. Has there been a real diminishing of companies and other brands, or has this consolidation made the world a better, let's just say, better regulated and better run place? What have you found, Stephen?
In terms of the life codes or in terms of the advisors?
In terms of the advisors.
I think if I was a client, I prefer to deal with a really well capitalised, larger IFA. So the consolidation, in my opinion, is a good thing. I think because it's ever more expensive to be in business, as David mentioned. It's the same for IFAs. It's very expensive to be in business. You've just got to have the scale. So I think when you see, Progeny buying Fry and stuff like that, it's a larger IFA by its nature is likely to be a stronger business than a smaller IFA. I'm not suggesting that all smaller IFAs are really. I'm going to get shot for that. That's but you do. Yeah. But I think you just need to be dealing with a stronger organisation. So I think the consolidation on the advisor space is probably a good thing.
When it comes, when we look at things like best practice, it does seem that those, and I don't know I do know for why, those with the smaller teams are able, it seems they're more able to concentrate on getting all of the best practice boxes ticked, and they seem to, they rarely deal with commission these days. So there's got to be a place, David, hasn't there, for the smaller advisor that wants to carry on?
Absolutely. have not seen over my 20 years involved in the cross-border industry a definitive correlation between the size of the advisor and the advice. I think plenty of small advisors gave great advice. The issue for them was having the infrastructure, particularly around governance, which becomes very expensive if you're a small advisor. So it's not that quality of advice is with the bigger firms, although perhaps you could argue consistency of advice works across the bigger firms. But small firms are great and are great, but they struggle sometimes to cope with the governance costs, and hence the rise of the bigger firms, although one shouldn't forget the networks. There are a couple of strong networks in our sector, and they do a very good job of bridging that gap, where the advisor just takes the central core functions off the network, like governance and also asset acceptance, such that they can just get on with looking for advice. And that's quite a slightly different model to just a consolidated large advisor, and in my experience, works perfectly well for those that want to get that freedom of how they work, not just freedom in where they give advice.
I remember we did an event in Miami a couple of years back, and the first, I think it might have actually been last year, I did like a straw poll of who deals with commission, out of the in the room. And Rich, you'll remember we did the same straw poll in the Middle East. Now, what was really interesting in Miami for the LATAM market, there wasn't a rush for people to want to go towards fee-based, whereas in the Middle East, where we all know commission is still prevalent, I don't think anyone put their hands up to say that we did the straw poll, and they didn't say that anybody was interested in commission anymore. How's that sitting in LATAM, Ari? The advisors and the brokers, they're extremely well educated. They're extremely compliant, but it does seem to work, this commission process, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's a transition, and of course we embrace both models from ITA. We believe in both models. I think both work. It depends on the client. It depends on what the client is looking for. When you have a young client, young professional that's coming up and needs a regular premium savings plan and needs to set up and structure, there's not going to be a lot of fee coming out of that in the beginning. So maybe the advisor needs a commission up front for that. Now, if you're dealing with a $5 million client that is looking for a pure advice and a structure, and you are able to set terms on a fee-based scheme for years to come, I think that works too, no? Definitely, we've seen a market that it was 100% commission 5 years ago. We're transitioning more to fee-based. We don't believe it's going to be a full transition. Both models are going to coexist, and we're absolutely fine with that. At the end of the day, the key here is that the client gets the advice and the product that they need, and they pay a reasonable amount of fee or commission for it. That's what we really stand for.
I think having both bases covered makes a lot of sense. It's interesting just the way that there are we are in different regions out there, and they do have their own idiosyncrasies and quirks. There's no catch-all regulation and way of doing things that fits into any particular region. Let's talk about how the market's changed in recent times. And Mark, you deal in the international pensions market a lot. How do you think that the markets are changing at the moment, in particular international pensions?
It's evolved quite a lot over time with regards to how international plans are relevant and utilised for employers. And I think Ariel mentioned this earlier with regards to what the trends have started to see. So I think if you take that back 40 or 50 years, you typically saw expats from west to east on packages, and international plans were structured in a way to support them. But actually, as you've grown over time, multinational employers, Ariel alluded to, have started to open up new areas of the world. So I think I saw a stat that since the turn of the century, multinational employers have grown from being in 13 locations globally to around 33. So with that, you see a little bit more of a global spread, and you see employees starting to move from location to location, not just from your headquarter from west to east, but start to move around globally. And I think that's just the way that recruitment and retention also goes with supporting employees' development. But with that, that's what international plans have been able to support. So not just the expats, but the growing need for mobile employees. But then also where there's locations where there's no locally supported arrangement, you can look to support those employees there. Where there's no 3-tier of pension and savings, there's supplementary arrangements. And let's not forget the Middle East, which is a really growing market. It's been utilised from saving from an end of service gratuity, but now it's a thriving market, and we've got a team out there that's present and been successful there. But international pensions has grown to be more multiple use in order to support those global movement of employees. And I think that comes down to more with employers started to utilise them because of their diversity, equity and inclusion strategy to make sure that there's a broad spread support for those employees that are moving around. And I mentioned earlier about well-being and that financial well-being and support of what they've been doing.
No, absolutely. When looking at how the market's changed in recent times, Richard, what's your view on this? And I'm looking at that question and thinking, how ambiguous is that question? The market, what market? What are we talking about?
Well,
you can choose.
Well, I suppose actually just echoing what Mark was saying there, obviously employee benefits are a big thing going forward. My prime market is the Middle East, and companies over there have finally woken up to it costs X amount to onboard someone. Well, we need to retain them. So let's have a well-rounded package to actually retain that talent rather than just attracting people, 3-dimensional rather than 1-dimensional. I think what we've seen on the investment side is a move to complexity. Maybe discretionary portfolio management is becoming a lot more to the fore across all facets. So the upscaling of IFAs, dealing with higher net worth clients, those who have actually invested in that infrastructure and support and education are doing very, very well. And I need to point out that it's actually 30 years today since I started with Eagle Star on October the 10th, 1994. And I can actually, remember some great days from there. But that market over time is specialising. And I think those who haven't specialised or are just maybe selling a product in isolation instead of talking about the holistic approach to a client's well-being, to their future, I think those people are going to get left behind. So what we're seeing is a gap opening between the people who haven't evolved to those who've really invested in their businesses. And that's kind of where we are. And we're wanting to support that end of the market and help them grow and build real value in their business. David,
what's your view on the way that the market has changed? And I think when I was looking at this particular question, I think I was kind of looking at, what is there that the advisors want? What do they need from product and service providers? That was my kind of thinking. How has it evolved in your view?
I still believe that the basic needs of the advisor and their clients has not changed that much. But the advisors are getting more sophisticated and bigger and have better infrastructure. So they want the products, if you call them that. But what they want is also huge commitment to relationship and service. They want to know that the manufacturer they deal with is really committed to making that relationship work. They also increasingly want automated links, technology links between the manufacturers and the advisors. They want API links, they want data sharing, they want one-time entry of client information. So I would say a lot of the change at the moment is the growing sophistication of the good advisors, and not every advisor is growing in the same way, such that they can become better able to look after the clients at a cheaper price with better information and one-time entry as much as possible between the organisations. So there's quite a lot of change which we all feel and has been talked about already. But one thing that really stands out for the really growing successful advisors is they want much better links into the manufacturers with better information and data. So that's one that comes to mind.
And it seems everybody wants it immediately as well, don't they? You know, how can you... and this is where technology comes in, I suppose, doesn't it? Stephen, you guys have, like everybody around the table, I'm sure, have invested heavily in technology. I'm going to kind of move on to we've got a question about AI, but in terms of, you know, technology generally, how are you and your team staying ahead of the curve and dealing with all the positives and negatives that technology brings? Because we all know how scary AI is. I'll tell you one thing. I put a photograph of myself into AI, and I came out looking like Brad Pitt, and it was fantastic, you know. But
you always look like Brad Pitt to me.
Thank you, David.
It must be good.
You're not wearing your glasses, though, are you? Of course. But you look at that, how scary it can manipulate things. How are you staying ahead of the curve, and what are you doing?
I mean, I'm not the chief technology officer, so this is all obviously second-hand. But we do have a dedicated team working on the AI space, but only on very basic operational issues. I mean, we're proceeding with AI very cautiously because you've just no idea where your data is going to end up. I mean, it could end up being used to change your face. I mean, it's slightly scary. So we're doing it, but we're very, very cautious. And I think on the risk side, the biggest risk, you know, apart from we talked about the risk to the advisors, you know, it's just going to wipe out the simple space and impact on margins for the high net worth space. But I think that the biggest risk is the fraud risk. I mean, we're just seeing, you know, using AI for fraud. I don't know if you've been following like the pig butchering stories, and pig butchering is a 70 billion a year industry that sort of relies on AI-created identities. And then we've seen identity payment frauds. You know, a couple of companies have lost 50, 60 million on these AI sort of creating identity-type frauds. So the risk side of the AI, I think, at the moment is slightly more worrying than what we're going to get from the positives of it, because it's just becoming more sophisticated every single day. So we have to become ever more alert. We're spending a fortune on training on cyber stuff. We're spending a fortune on the various sort of IT protections, but trying to stay ahead of the AI fraudsters is going to be one hell of a game.
I'm going to go around the table. Rich, what's your view on it? I mean, I personally find it quite scary in putting my details in. I didn't mind putting my mugshot into it, you know, because anyone can use that for whatever they want. But they might use it for a passport, or they might use it for.
Well, they're
for
using
other
it
things.
to try and justify a payment. You're getting people. Yeah, I mean, you think you're speaking to a colleague. Sorry.
We've heard of that in our industry as well. In terms of AI on the investment industry, it really has impacted the investment proposition and the building of portfolios. I suppose it depends how you use it. We haven't seen yet the killer app that kind of obliterates half of our industry. Yes, has the potential to be a big disruptor. We're taking it easy in terms of our AI use internally. Within our customer management model, we are using AI to monitor client behaviour from a positive point of view, potentially maternity, babies coming along, education fees, wedding, just a kind of a proactive approach to actually enhancing our relationship. And our IT team call that integrating that into the tech stack. So that makes me sound as if I'm head of IT when I actually say that. But from a personal point of view, I've actually just started using an AI entity called Claude to record meeting notes, which then does a meeting summary and provides me with action points. So from an efficiency point of view, I'm all on board with that. But actually from a corporate point of view, I echo what Stephen's saying in terms of the propensity and the ability to use it for fraud and for bad is something we all need to be wary of. So I think it's baby steps when it comes to AI.
David, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I think I slightly disagree. sort of making out as if AI is a scandal, and how do you sort of control that scandal? Actually, AI is just technology. It's people that do bad or good things with that technology. The day when AI takes over the world is, thankfully, long after I've retired or probably died. So what we're talking now is enhanced technology. And we are using that quite comfortably to, for example, it can go in and scan forms that have been put in and automatically know whether they're real or not, and how you then store that in the system or ask supplementary questions. So we're actually quite fans of AI. And I would only urge people to remember that when people talk about the Big Butchery scandal, which is basically a scam, that's actually people, right? Putting out a message, and the people on the other side being greedy and stupid sometimes as well. So I would say let's not see AI fundamentally as a problem. Let's see it as technology that can be used for good or bad by companies, by individuals. So for us, when we look at AI, we say right now, here and now, it can improve our processes and make them better for the advisor and client and better for us. And that's how we're beginning to use it. We've already got it now controlling one or two processes for new business applications, but it's quite limited. And I would remind people that when the scandals emerge, it's actually people doing the scandals. It's not the technology.
Yeah, and to support that, the scandals have been going on forever.
Yeah.
It's in different. The boiler room now is an AI tool creating faked individuals around the world. This is technology. I feel, I'm listening to everyone. I feel that we should probably set another hour to talk about this. No, there's so many things to discuss from cybersecurity, and we're also spending a lot of money training our employees, making sure that everything is all right. The number of emails and contact information that you're getting on a daily basis that are trying to scam you is humongous, right? So you need to be ahead of the curve. But also, in our company, technology has been so important from the very beginning, right? 22 years ago. And we believe that is fundamental for growth going forward too. We keep investing on it. We can probably can talk about it later when we discuss plans for the future. We are redoing all our systems. But particularly on artificial intelligence, I was very young, but I find a lot of things in common with the .com boom back at the end of the 90s, beginning of the 2000s, where there was this new technology. Everyone was so happy with it. They were trying to find uses. They did. And now we were able to go online and check the balances on our bank, and we don't need to go to an ATM. And it was fantastic, right? And all these companies, they invested, all these companies were born, and the Microsoft and the Cisco's, and everyone over-invested in this. And then we had a reality check where there was a lot of over-investing. There was a lot of companies that went down. And but over the years, the internet and everything that brought to it, to businesses in general, it's been phenomenal. Just imagine our life without internet right now, right? But it took 25 years. I feel that we are in those early stages with AI, that there's a race. There's a lot of companies investing billions and billions of dollars. They know that they're over-investing, but they want to be there. They know that this is the key. We have to be here. We're going to probably need to adjust things going forward, but we don't want to be left out. And in terms of risks and all that, yes, that's another conversation.
Do you imagine a day when there's, I'm sure there already is. I remember writing a story about 8 years ago on II about like robo advice, and I think there was actually a bank in, I think it was Hong Kong, and there was an actual bank that was controlled by robots, and people went up and talked to the robot, and it was kind of gimmicky at the time, and probably not very sophisticated. But given the way that AI is developing, and it's kind of, it eats everything, doesn't it? It eats more information. And can you imagine an AI financial advisor? And I'll ask Mark, what's your view on that? And also, what's your view on the whole thing generally?
I mean, AI is certainly a disruptor, but it's a good thing, right? It moves things forward and keeps developing from all our lives, not just the business. But I think from a Zurich point of view, We embrace innovation, obviously in a controlled and cautious way, like some of the other guys have alluded to. But actually, we embrace innovation, and globally we hold innovation championships where startups submit applications with new ideas to improve services, and actually a lot of them are using AI technology. And so we've taken some of them on board, and that's started to integrate into some of our products globally. I think from an AI perspective, it certainly creates efficiencies from an operational point of view. I think David alluded to that. Because actually you relate to kind of what you do in your own time. So the quick responses you get from online marketplaces and things is actually what people want when they're speaking to their provider and from their employee benefits. So actually it creates efficiencies and when you do things like that. I think from a communication point of view, it's going to be a really important part, because actually utilising data means that you'll be able to personalise things a lot more. I don't think it's going to replace advice, and probably touch upon that, but actually the personalisation, and I talked about well-being earlier, with how you could make it relevant to you as an individual and make things relevant is going to be really important. And the communication aspect is great. And I think actually our chief strategist, who does like a quarterly market update on Zurich.com, it's recorded, but then it goes out in 8 different languages, so it looks like you're speaking Japanese, Portuguese and everything, but actually you can reach the whole globe because you're utilising technology from that communication point of view. So I'm looking forward to seeing this session in Japanese as well, actually. So if we can do that, that'd be great. So I think utilising it is a really great thing, but again, in like everyone's alluded to, very cautious approach when it comes to how it's going to be used.
I've been told by some staff that occasionally I sound as if I'm speaking Japanese.
When it comes to, I mentioned that point about the advisor. Let me play devil's advocate and throw this into the ring. What would you prefer? Would you prefer an individual who's an advisor? This is to manage your money, or would you prefer an AI that is all advisors that have ever existed and has got all the information out there a lot quicker? Does it have to be a person? Is it not better to use the tool that's there to get the,
Can
all
we
the
have
quant?
both? Can you have both? Can you have a person, a human being that has access to all these tools and provides with that kind of service? I think that anyone who is discussing, the life situations and investments and health, they want someone relatable in front of them, and it's
People
human
buy
nature.
from people.
Yeah.
Even all the way down the scale. I mean, somebody with a large amount of money and very complex problems probably wants a person.
Yeah.
But I think my children, who are obviously a lot younger, who invest in small amounts of money, they'll probably feel more. I mean, they use AI for everything. They'll probably feel more comfortable dealing with Gary's super advisor, and not having to pay for a very nice, clever person in front of them and get really good advice.
I think there's a gap in that statement. I think in broad terms you're right. So everyone's happy with the technology until something goes wrong, and then they want a person to help sort that out. So technology can go wrong, or people don't know if it can go wrong or not. And I'm very happy using my mobile banking app, for example, until something goes wrong, in which case I ring up a bank manager and say, help me. And even my son, who is young and I'm not, will be in that situation as well. So I'd say the automation can work when everything is working perfectly and there's no information gap or a family worry. And would I be happy if there's somebody in the broader family died and just saying, I'll just tell a piece of technology? I don't think it would work emotionally. So I think technology can work when nothing goes wrong. I mean, just as a slightly jokey example of this, the BBC this morning, weather map had decided the whole world was experiencing a level 5 hurricane, and they couldn't turn it off. They didn't know how to adjust it on the BBC News this morning. So that's an example of you have to have a human being somewhere controlling.
But you won't need as many human beings. I mean, if you can reach 1,000 clients with the super advisor, and you only need one person in case it goes wrong for 10 clients every now and then, big firms are going to go down that route. I mean, it's just going to be economic sense.
Yeah,
So,
you're still going to need people to tell you to switch it off and on again.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
Yeah, the process tasks, for those that are involved in process tasks, that where the risk is for those involved in those tasks, I think.
of course, it's the information that you input into it. So the beauty of a financial advisor, in answering my own sort of flippant devil's advocate question, is that they know the person that they're dealing with. It's a lifetime relationship with a lot of the advisors. And of course, you might be young in your 20s and think, I can do better. But it's the information that you're putting into the AI to ask the questions. If you're not asking the right questions, you're not going to get the right answers, are you?
Well, the AI might spot that you're asking the wrong questions and tell you what
It's
questions
gonna
you should be asking.
It's going to let you know. That's not the question.
Yeah, and the other, there's much more control over the quality of the advice. Going back to what we said at the very, very start, and on the, I mean, there's been all sorts of scandals over the years in all the industries. If they'd have been your super advisor, we might not have been in those situations. Like plain devil's advocate.
There is that, yeah.
I think that human, let's say you have to go both ways, like David said, but it's both ways. You can create efficiencies, personalisation, everything, like you say, from an advice point of view, but that human touch where you add true value from the conversation, the advice, the life experience, and not just on advice. I mean, we talk about advice, but we work in a market where we're working with employers, so the consultative conversation to understand truly what objectives are and how to overcome that is really valuable. And then you go to the other side, and when there's claims and there's situations, the empathy that the human touch can then can't really be replaced by AI.
Or can it? That's the thing. This is. Well, it might have more empathy than. I mean,
you don't know.
Let's get philosophical. What is empathy? One person's empathy is different to another's.
Are you really Gary?
Well,
Brad Pitt.
The AI version of me was Brad Pitt. No, it's so funny. I kind of use AI as a play tool. Play around creatively, but from a publisher's point of view. I've said this before, we're extremely concerned about aggregated content and how there are sites that might look prettier than our sites, but they're not searching for the news and they're not real stories. They're aggregated from all the other places. And then when does that just consume itself and become an echo chamber? That's a huge concern when it comes to all news, not just our industry.
Yeah.
As we
It's a society concern.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to jump onto business, and we'll keep this bit reasonably briefish. But I want to know where it's not often we get all the big names together in one huddled up space. I love how you're staying.
They're stacking.
You're staying nice and close together. I like that.
Tetris here.
Just tell us where your business is focused. I'll start with David. Where's the business focused, and going into 2025, what's coming down the pipes?
Our business focus in terms of markets hasn't changed. We still concentrate on the international space, cross-border space, with the same sorts of advisors, by and large. Sometimes that changes through acquisition of advisors, but the broad principle's the same. But if you want me to say what really is going to drive 25 for us, we already know our business planning process is 3/4 of the way through, and it's technology. The winners in this down the track will have fantastic technology, both for internal processes, thinking, information, and externally dealing with advisors. But what is really standing out for me over the past year is how it all boils down to one thing, which is data. So everyone wants brilliant data. So as we rebuild and integrate systems, it's that centralized data that flows between those systems that counts. The regulator now wants data. They want to get the source data on where you're giving advice, which advisor you deal with, what were AML processes. That's all about the data. So for us, the key, outside of the normal processes of looking after advisors and their clients, the key project 25 is absolutely going hell for leather to have the best possible infrastructure for technology, as much possible on one platform, having the best possible data cloud above that, so all the data sits in one place, and you can move that between systems and stakeholders, like regulators, advisors being two classic ones, in and out, without it being very difficult for everyone. And if we get that right, and we still keep good relationships and good service, I think we'll be in a strong place, rather than a desperate urge to launch lots of new products or be in endless new territories. It's get the basics right and build a fantastic technology engine. If we do that, we'll be in good shape in 2 or 3 years.
Good answer. I'll move across. Mark?
Very, very similar, and it's about constant evolution. It's not about new product, but just keep on evolving the services and the value that we offer from existing products, especially on an international basis. Added value services, and I think what we want to focus on is, and I'll give you an example from the international pension arrangements, the wellbeing focus and digital. So we've partnered with Nudge to do financial wellbeing into members of the plan. We've partnered with Zogo, who do investment support digitally through the app. So there's lots of advancements, and again in our group risk, we're working with employee assistance programs and things like that. So lots of advancements for added value services for what we're doing on international. So it's that constant evolution. And a couple of weeks ago, we actually held a business update session within London with our key distributors, and we sort of shared a little bit about what we're doing from an international basis. And the feedback was great, because not only have we got some leading products within the market, but we're not stopping there. We just keep on adding value through digital capabilities and how we're moving forward. So that's 25, 26. It's going to be keep on moving on for the next few years.
Ari?
I can think of 3 main drivers. Market expansion is one, technology systems is always one, and then education. In regards with market expansion, we opened this year our ITA India office in Gift City. So we are investing in that part of the globe. We are very encouraged with that market. Then regarding the systems, I briefly touched in the beginning about it. We own our systems, so they're all proprietary, and we are redoing all of them. We've been working for 2 years. Now more on the back end, which we're going to start implementing things in the first quarter next year. Probably finish up with the back end at some point in 2026. And then we're going to start with the front end, all the user experience and websites that our clients and advisors use. So that's a huge project, and it's been a while. We're working very hard on it. And ITA University, I talked about it last year here. We have now another year under our belt. We have this collaboration with the IE from Madrid and the CFA Institute here in London, putting 2 programs together for our advisors. We're also using that internally for our employees, so they're growing on the same path that our advisors are growing. And as a matter of fact, I'm going tomorrow to Madrid to do our first masterclass. We're bringing the top 40 students from all over the world to have 2 days with the professors from the university on great topics. We're very excited about it. So I tell you how it goes next week.
We'll come back to education before we wrap this up, because I think it's an interesting topic. You know, how big a role should the product and service providers play, and who do you educate, the consumers or the advisors, or and also your own teams. Rich, what's happening with Canaccord that you can tell us about?
Okay, continuing to grow. Just announced the completion of the Cantab acquisition in Cambridge in the UK. Subject to regulatory approval, we'll be onboarding Brooks Macdonald International in 2025. That's a very, very mutually exciting deal, bringing those on board and having the power of their brand under Canaccord in the future. So consolidation, we're one of those asset managers who will go out and do that. Technology, we've invested multiple millions over the year in our internal system that is the economic engine for our 40 billion that we manage on behalf of clients. And I think what my role is about going out and talking about the centralized investment philosophy within that. So not just talking about funds or model portfolios or discretionary. It's actually inverting the conversation to, well, what do you need? Do you want the ability to trade? You can have a fund, you can have an IMPS. It's all about within there. And it comes back to that point of education of what we can actually do, because sometimes people don't actually know what we can do with our systems and our technology and our support for people. Hence why we're probably going to be dealing with less people going forward in a more specialised way who will really buy into all the products and services that we actually offer.
That's one area that, magazines, websites, journalists can really help in those areas. Get the message out to everybody.
Of course.
We have ways to do that.
And of course, the priority, we've got fantastic life company relationships that we have at the heart of everything we do in all the regions that we actually work out of. And it's about expanding those relationships, deepening them as well.
It's interesting, the Brooks McDonald deal, I usually get phone calls when things are happening. I had no idea this was happening. How did you keep that quiet? I mean, you don't have to tell me. Tell me later over a drink. Yeah. But it was, it kind of, was it really? We normally get wind months in advance. But congratulations on that deal. And also, from a personal point of view, congratulations on 30 years in the industry.
Thank you.
You were waiting for somebody to say you don't look it.
Yeah, no one said that far. But I was. We can get it. I was just actually thinking back to my first day, and we're talking about AI and technology. I was actually sharing a green monochrome system with someone to do change of addresses, and you had to go to the filing cabinet and take a paper file out, sign it out, and then do the work on it. But that actually gave you the ability to learn all about the client, to learn all about the background, have a look at all the correspondence. So heady days and some really happy times. But
finger cuts.
Finger cuts on the old staples and paper clips. But yes, thank you.
I might not look it, right, but I remember when the Fact Find was launched. The fact, because there was no fact find before. You just got, there was a.
What is it? I'm sorry.
The fact find is the.
No, I'm not.
The fact find in the UK, I think it was something like 1988. They brought out
the Financial Services Act.
Financial Services Act, where it was part of, regulation, part of law, that you had to write down the information about the client on a piece of paper and keep it to make sure you were giving the right advice beforehand.
Oh, well, it was not technology.
Yeah, it was like, it was almost, and I started as a salesperson for Refuge Assurance when it came in, and the advisors were going crazy. It was one-page document. This is ridiculous. Why are we filling these in? Tell us about the future. Look for Utmost. What's 2025 looking like?
Well, the integration of Lombard into the Utmost business. I mean, that's going to take up an awful lot of time and effort next year. To make sure it's as seamless as possible for the advisors and the staff, and then we're going to have a fantastic platform to build out on. So it's the in terms of the markets that we focus in on, during that process, when we buy Lombard, it comes with a fantastic French business, a French onshore French business, not that we want to build out. UK and Italy is always going to be very important markets, and then we don't intend dashing out into new markets, but we do want to increase the focus on our LATAM and our Asian business, because the market, certainly in the high net worth space, there's been so many changes in our favour, like CRS, CFC rules, and worldwide taxation. We're getting a lot more interest in the high net worth space. And what's noticeable just on that, it was actually an answer to another question, but in the high net worth space was I think for the first time I can remember in like 25 odd years in this space, lawyers on a global basis are now recommending insurance, which for years and years it was always an afterthought. Whereas now, in various parts of the globe, it's like one of their first points of recommendation. So we obviously want to focus on that. But just making sure Lombard works and we build out, and the clients and the partners have a seamless transition.
It is really exciting listening to all five of you talk about next year, and there's so many interesting things happening within each organisation. I think we've picked the right players to be around the table for the Leadership Summit. I actually had lunch with a lawyer from Hong Kong yesterday, and she was telling, and you're right, the focus from lawyers and the crossover into the financial advice world is is huge now. She was actually telling me that she's qualified as a therapist as well. So she...
You probably need to be.
When you think about it, I thought it was... I always thought, I didn't see the connection. But if you think about dealing with like a family office or a wealthy family and all the infighting with succession planning and so on and so forth, then it sort of made more sense. And she charges the same, she charges the same amount that she charges for legal services on the therapy side. But she was talking about that connectivity with financial advice as well. So you make a good point.
Yeah, and that shows you that artificial intelligence will not be able to do that.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
need a person to take care of those things.
Absolutely. We've there's a couple of questions on my list, but we may have to rattle through them because I'm aware that we like to try and keep this to an hour. I'm okay to run on a bit because we, if we want to, but we will try and we'll chop it down a bit. So I'm just interested in teams, right? And one of the things that stuck with in my head over the last 18 months is how important recruitment is, number one, but also retention of staff. And I'll come back to David. How do you ensure that you stay ahead of the competition, David?
Well, I think retention or recruitment it works at two levels. It works at the functional level and the emotional level. So on a functional level, people come to work and they want to get paid for their services. So you need to provide a competitive pay package. We provide various reward-based structures around bonuses and equity participation. They want it to be a nice place to work. But in looking at staff, I've always seen it as a Venn diagram, and partly driven by personality and part by stage in life. So everybody comes to work either for money or for challenge or for fun. And people aren't normally just 100% in one of those little circles. They overlap by personality, by the function they perform for the company, but also by life stage. So they might want and say, I actually just want fun and challenge. Then they get married and have kids and say, I really want money. So it varies. So everyone's different, and you can never keep everyone happy all the time in every component, but you have to understand that dynamic. So I think it's a mixture of money, enjoyment at work, well-being, fun, and challenge. And people also, I've noticed, they want to work for a company they think is going to be or is going to be successful because they get pride. I work for a company X, that makes me feel good because it has a good reputation. So allied to that is if you give staff who join a feeling that they're with a growing company, they will also stay around longer. So for us, I don't think there's just one factor. I think it's a good working environment, decent pay, decent reward, and a company that's going somewhere helps them be a bit more loyal. You can't keep everyone happy all the time, but that broadly seems to suffice for us, and it seems to work.
Mark?
It's timely on the question, actually, because from a Zurich point of view, we've just been named in the Forbes list for the best employer to work for globally. I think we come in at 233rd in the top 4 for insurers as well. So I think there's recognition there for Zurich globally on where we're positioned from an employer. There's a key essence of that, and actually through the strategy is about sustainability, and that's on our people, our customers, and the planet. And the people element, I mean, we've spoken a little bit about customer and focus there already, but from a people perspective, it's about development, it's about creating value from our employees, and it's about giving opportunities to develop and move, and some of the mobility things that we've said already. But that also comes in line with the focus on community and the planet. So there's an awful lot that we do from a sustainability focus on community support and planet and things like that. And I think get down at a local level, it's really valued. And we get, I think, 3 days to be able to volunteer in the community a year, whether it's a Zurich sponsored program, whether it's a personal program. In fact, our team the other week were working at the soup kitchen on Tottenham Court Road, the distribution team, to be able to give back and have that day to support the community. And I think those company values are really important, going back to the question about how you retain and how you recruiting, because it's really important. And I know that there's people that want to join Zurich because of those values. And I think it was we've just done a employment benefits survey, And I think one of the things was 9 out of 10 people would move employers if the values were more closely aligned to their own. I think, see, in comparison with pay and things, but actually from a value perspective, they would move if there was more value within the new company. So I think recruitment, retention has been really, really big with a focus on sustainability.
I think the answers are going to be quite similar across the board, aren't they? You know, this is the kind of question that you've got to tick these boxes. Just adding to the question slightly, Ari, you've opened something in India. You recently opened an office in Asia as well. On top of that, is it kind of important to give people that mobility to travel around the world as well? And do you think that your backyard, as it's referred to, is LATAM? Do you think you guys don't tend to lose staff at all? Your retention is very good, isn't it?
It's excellent, yes. It's a fascinating topic, no? I agree with everything that it was said. You can have the great technology and the best products, but at the end of the day, we're all in the business of having good people in our companies to attract talent. You need talent, and you need to create an environment where that talent can grow, can develop, can shine, and can fulfill themselves, right? If not, they're going to look for another place. And yes, we're very happy with the way that we're able to keep our guys around, guys and gals. A phenomenal record of how many people over 10, 15 years in the company. I think you touch on flexibility. Flexibility is something that probably 5-8 years ago was not on the table as it is right now. You need to be more flexible. I'm from a different generation, and it's hard to discuss things with a 20-something that first questions are, okay, how many days I can work from home? While remote working is fantastic and is actually was great during different times, the sense of culture, the ways, and I think we talked about this in the past, is so important that we need to be together. We need to see each other. We need to work with each other. We need to talk in the hallways and in the meeting rooms. We need to build a sense of community culture within the company. So, but at the same time, you have to be flexible, because if you want to attract that top talent, you need to have some certain flexibility. I think the game right now for all of us here in leadership positions is to balance that, be able to balance those requirements with what we believe is key to develop a team.
There's the secret sauce. I know you're a big advocate of having people in the office. You do allow remote working, David?
Yeah.
Or do you? I don't know.
No, we do a bit.
Occasionally.
But we're quite cautious about it. We learned quite a lot during COVID about the positives and the negatives. So I accept that one has to be a bit more flexible, and we review that from time to time. But I would urge people, I mean, my son, for example, does his best to be in the office 5 days a week. That's where he gets his conversations with his superiors. He learns from how the company works. He has coffees with people, and he goes, I want to be in the office. That's where I really learn and build relationships and contacts. And he's in his 20s.
Mentoring.
That's hugely crucial. And I think if younger people who may want to work from home, they need to be very careful, because they're not building a relationship beyond their function because they're working from home. And if I can employ someone who works from their spare bedroom in one place in the world, I can equally employ them in Kuala Lumpur. So I think younger people, if that's where it's coming from, I'm not saying don't pursue a flexible working lifestyle, but I would be very careful what you wish for.
Be warned. Rich, how does it work at Canaccord?
Yeah, we are effectively an employee face-to-face business. There are people who, a bit later in life like me, who spend a lot of time working from home, but then I'm always travelling. As Harry said, it's all about that balance of motivation. What motivates someone might not motivate someone else. And it's about two-way communication as well. So we do regular staff surveys, which, senior management is they will actually report back and on their progress within that. And I think you were talking about opportunities. This industry round this table is one of the greatest industries for giving people opportunities. I joined industry 30 years ago today, and within a year I was being sent on planes to the Middle East, and we were sending people out to Latin America. It's such an amazing industry for giving people that opportunity who show that they're willing to go on. I think we've all benefited from that in the past. But, you know, we aspire in our sector to be the employer of choice, as we all do, and everyone's got wonderful answers in terms of how we treat our staff.
Stephen?
I'm not sure how I can add to any of it.
Yeah,
the only thing I would say is something our HR team keep reminding me of is that people tend not to leave for money, they tend to leave to get a better boss. So we just have to focus on everybody being slightly better bosses.
It's interesting the point that you make about the new generation, though. And I can't remember who it was I was talking to about this, but they were telling me that they just cannot get the right people because so many want to work from home now. COVID it's been an absolute game changer, and people are, you know, they got used to it, they like it. I like it personally, but I'm not the same as everybody else. I've got people that work for me, that work from home, and they're better when they're working in a different environment. But how are you not going to miss out on some of the talent that's out there?
Well, if one of the biggest employers in the world is Amazon, what do they employ? 1.5 million people, and they say you're better to be in the office or in the workplace. But then you're being led by the government. They're letting half the civil service come in for 1 hour a week or whatever it is. So you can cut that. But that is you've got this problem between commercial businesses. We're all in commercial businesses here, where we know we get more from our employees if they're in their office interacting with people. And then we got the state saying, no, we think, who incidentally never actually worked in businesses, that saying, no, it's okay to sit at home. So how do we have a society or an economy where you've got those two conflicts?
Well, you will guess that the talent really will look for those opportunities in the commercial side.
Yeah. I think it comes back to what David was saying before about the career opportunities for people who are in the office, who are absorbing the culture, who are at the water cooler moments, the coffee breaks. Those are the ones who will be the future of our industry, I think, in general.
But making it an environment that people want to come in and work as well. Yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it? And Steve, you mentioned that about Boss, but I think it goes in about creating that environment, having a good environment that people want to come in and be part of it and work with their colleagues. I
think this has been probably my favourite leadership summit so far. I think the flow's been fantastic. Apologies for the heat. I was feeling it a little bit myself. Stood up before. All that really remains to say is thank you all for being so open and with your time and discussions, and thank you for supporting this annual event. And it just remains to say, from the Investment International studio here in London, it's goodbye and thank you for watching.